Hey, Moses Lake Christian Church. It is Friday, May 29th in the afternoon, and we just finished a food drive for our local food bank. It was a great time, and thank you for helping us to donate some food that can be given to families who need it. We were able to fill up 2 large fruit bins, and we're looking forward to getting that, the food bank, giving that out to people who need it. I want to take a little bit more time this Friday afternoon for our video update, and I want to invite you to listen to a parable if you have a few minutes. It's a true story. Last Saturday, Charlotte and I decided to take a trip from Kittitas to Wenatchee over the Clockham Range. If you've been in the Clockham, you know that it's really rough and it's very slow. It's steep in lots of parts. It's narrow. It's very sharp rocks. I've actually blown a couple of tires up there. We went into the Clockham at 11, and we finally got to Wenatchee at about 6:40. Now we stopped up on top at about 5,200 feet, and we had lunch, and we did a lot of sightseeing, and we took our time. We looked at some camping spots, and then we were trying to get over to Wenatchee, and there was one point where Charlotte said, I think we're on the wrong side of the ridge. I think we're on the Ellensburg side, but we were kind of in trees, and at this point we're at about 6,000 feet. There was a couple feet of snow, and it was really rutted and kind of wet, and we came around this corner on this narrow road. It was really steep on one side, and sure enough, there in the distance at 6,000 feet below us, we could see Ellensburg. I went a little bit further forward. There was a little bit of a wide spot in the road. I turned around, which Charlotte really enjoyed. Turning around on steep roads when there's a big cliff on one side is really exciting. We got going back the other way, and we got over the top, and we picked our way down, and we finally found the route. And even when we could see Wenatchee, we're still 30 to 45 minutes away. We got on a really steep road that was narrow, and there were some really deep ruts in some parts. They were still wet. And they were deep enough ruts, 2 or 3 feet deep in some places, where if you don't pick the right line, even in a 4-wheel drive, you can end up high centered. And so it was getting a little bit tense, and it had been a long day. And there was a moment where I actually just lost my patience, and I started getting really uptight and a little bit agitated. And finally, Charlotte looked at me and she goes, "What's going on with you? What's up?" And the truth is, I didn't know. But she encouraged me to settle down, and I did. And you know how that happens when your wife encourages you to settle down when you're driving. It was good. But we got down, and we've reflected on that trip. I've reflected on that trip and what happened. And what I realized is it's kind of a parable of where we are today. When you start an adventure, you're having a great time, and for the first bit, even you handle the tough stuff and you get through it. But there's a point when you just want to be done. You just want to be down the mountain. And I really wanted to be down the mountain. The problem is, if at that point you lose patience and you start going faster than you want to, you're very liable to tear something up, break your vehicle, maybe hurt yourself or hurt others. And it's at that moment that you really have to pay attention. And I think we're kind of in that place. A lot of churches are, where they want to be meeting again, and we want to meet. It's really good to meet together. We love that. Certainly, as one of the communicators for our church, I can tell you that there's a lot more energy communicating to a room full of people who are interacting with you and laughing and paying attention, and just staring into a video camera is not as much fun. But we have some work to do as we walk this out, and so I want to kind of let you know what we're planning to do. As President Trump came out, which we're grateful for, last Friday, and said churches are essential and churches need to start meeting again, churches want to start meeting again. And we were really on a plan that would have us meeting outdoors about mid-June. That's the plan that we developed 3 or 4 weeks ago. And so we're still kind of on that plan. And I want to tell you the steps that we're looking at for getting back into the building. Really, the first one is we're going to start a service for senior citizens June the 7th, and that'll be here, and we can have them here and social distance inside where they can watch the service together. These are the folks who are most vulnerable, certainly, to the virus, who've been probably most isolated, and also many of them don't have good internet connections. They can't watch the service on YouTube like many of us can. So that's the next step, June 7th. And we hope by mid-June that we're going to be having some services outside on the East Lawn. Hey, we have a great spot for that. We live in a great part of the country for that. It's great weather. And so that's where we're headed. We can spread out, and we don't have to worry so much about all the disinfecting inside the building. So that's kind of where we're headed towards in mid-June. One thing I want to encourage you to think about is that you can meet in small groups now in your homes. And so there's opportunity for you with a few people to meet even on a Sunday morning and watch the service together. And so we want to encourage you to stay focused on what we've been talking about for a year and a half, that we want to see MLCC engaged in authentic, life-giving relationships with God, with each other in the church community, and with those outside in our broader community. Listen, last week we had a chance to listen to a video by Chris Brown, who's the senior pastor of North Coast Church, which is a mega church in Southern California. They have about 6 campuses, I think, and 56 weekend services. And he was encouraging his people, don't lose patience at this point. It's important to remember what the church is. And he said a couple of things that caught our attention. He said this: thanks for being a part of the crowd, but if you want to be a part of the church, that happens at homes. The church happens in dialogue, not monologue. The church happens in circles, not in rows. And that was really catching for me as I remember that what we've been encouraging our church to do anyway is to engage in smaller groups and connect in those ways. Listen, we haven't lost sight of the mission. We're planted firmly in that mission, which is to glorify God by reaching up in worship, reaching into one another in discipleship and fellowship, and reaching out to our community in ministry and service. We're continuing to do that. We never closed. We've never stopped being essential, and we've worked really hard to stay connected with each other in life. So we want to encourage you not to give up on that piece. It's really good for us to pay attention to what God's calling us into now, to go deeper with each other, to go deeper with Him, and we'll continue to move forward. We don't want to lose patience. The end is in sight. We want to do the last part well. So hang in there with us, and thank you for being a part of our church community. Some of you are watching from a long distance away even, and we're grateful to have you in our community. So take care, God bless, and we'll keep moving forward as we move out of this shutdown. God bless.